HarperCollins presents The Escape, The Tour, The Cyclist and Me by Pippa York and David Walsh. Read by Annie Wallace, Jerry O'Brien, Stephanie Racine, David Rintoul, and Joe Eyre. The Caledonian antizergy is a term invented to describe the supposed harnessing of conflicting opposites under the common yoke of the Scottish character. Perhaps it goes even deeper than that, however, and this antizergy is actually rooted in the Scottish landscape itself. There is hardly a piece of fertile land in Scotland where, as you look at it, you are not aware at the same time of the wild hills beyond or around it. Nor are they just a backdrop, like the antizergy. They are an integral but starkly contrasting aspect of the same landscape. Away from the wilder mountains, where there is no cultivation, in both the highlands and the lowlands, it is this relationship of green fields and wild hills that forms the distinctive Scottish landscape. Although very different, they belong together, for it is the shelter given by the high ground that makes possible the fertility of the fields of the low ground. Duncan Macmillan. Prologue. Heathrow Airport, June 2021. I meet up with Pippa York again. We're about to board an Air France flight to Paris, and in no time at all we've picked up where we left off at the last Tour de France, just 10 months ago. That 2020 edition of the tour was one of the stranger installments of cycling's epic story. COVID moved the tour from its usual July home into an August-September rental. The crowds couldn't gather by the roadsides in their usual numbers, but when I look back, the 2020 tour stands as tall as the others. A beautiful race, held together by defiance and enriched by an ending no one foresaw. That had been our first tour together, Pippa and me, and it had gone well, so we decided to do it all again. The odds on a happy outcome hadn't been good. I am David Walsh, a white Irish sportswriter, winding down the last descent as the summit of my 60th birthday recedes into the distance. Pippa is a little younger. I know her now as Pippa, although formally she's Pippa York, and formally she was Robert Millar. We first met in the early 1980s. I was in love with cycling, and it was a good time to be an Irishman covering the tour. Sean Kelly was then a godfather of the peloton, a taciturn spokesman for the English speakers. We referred to Kelly as the Irish Flamand, so tough he could have been Flemish. His compatriot, Stephen Roche, was then fresh-faced and a few years off his historic Tour de France win in 1987. Roche had turned up in France after his name had been suggested to the ACBB, Athletic Club de Boulogne-Billancourt, amateur team in Paris by a young Scottish rider who'd arrived 12 months earlier. That was the tradition. Each Anglo nominated another recruit at the end of their first year, so Paul Sherwin begat Graham Jones, who begat Robert Millar, who begat Stephen Roche. I was keen to write cycling stories, and Kelly and Roche were my go-to men. Millar, however, was a different kettle of smoked cod. Around him, any question could be the wrong question, so just like the house with the visible alarm system, us criminals of the press centre moved on to the house round the corner. The truth was, I didn't much like Millar, not that he'd have noticed. When his career ended, Millar's life began all over again, if that's the right way of putting it. After a long and painstaking transition, Robert metamorphosed into Pippa York, the wry, sharp woman with whom I'm looking forward to spending the next month. I'm still a sportswriter. I still enjoy telling stories, and I'm grateful that Pippa York is less reticent than Robert Millar. She seems more at ease with the world than he was. We both did our first tours in 1983. Millar on a road bike, me on a motorbike. That was the first of Laurent Fignon's 2 tour wins. Without the controlling presence
Sample complete. Ready to continue?